come a little closer and lend me your ears. Don't worry, you keep yours while I keep mine.
In each episode, we'll dig into the major stories, uncover the truth, and retrieve gems from Yahowah's blog.
We'll discuss what's right, bark about what's wrong, wag our tails at the thrill of discovery, and take you on adventures through the exciting world we live in today. So, fasten your curiosity leash and get ready.
Right then, coming to you with another episode of the Yahowah's Vlog on a Blog. Tomorrow's news, disseminated today. Let's dive in.
Let's jump right in. And here we are with Captain Kirk, and we're back in our ocean studio. You know, it's been a month of Sundays since we've been here in our rainbow, not ocean studio, our rainbow studio. You know, we're doing the series on Twistianity, and then got involved in presenting luminaries and the basic series, and going out to the ocean studio and staying in the library, that we just never got down here. Yesterday, I was talking to Rich and said, you know, if we get a laptop down there, you know, between now and the time we get an actual computer and monitor and everything else, but just with a laptop, we could make this work for the Vlog on the Vlog, and get back down to our rainbow studio and, you know, keep all the cameras and the lights and the gear exercise. So here we are.
and
delighted to have you in my rainbow room. And Captain Kirk, man, it's out there. It's early in the morning, in the People's Republic of California.
Yeah,
your glasses on. It looks like you've got a bandage there on the.
I was going to tell you. I was going to try to blame it on Sylvia and say that she hit me with a sucker punch, but I'm suffering from a little sinuses as well as asthmatic anyway, so it's hard to breathe. So I'm going to have to do this just so I can talk.
Those breathe right strips.
It works very well.
The air passages.
Yes, sir. Good stuff.
I've tried one of those a long time ago. It's a pretty good little trick. So good to see you here.
Thank you.
You're in the hot seat now, in the Vlog on the blog, and but you know, you're pretty comfortable being in the hot seat. We've been together, you know, in the range of 20 years, haven't we?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
every day.
Yours is a interview I did on a show that was the oddest probably of any that I've ever done. I've forgotten the guy's name, but he was you remember him?
Yes, Stan, I think.
Stan, yeah, Stan. I've forgotten his last name. Do you remember Stan's last name?
Not really bad.
It was Stan, and Stan was old when I started doing his program. So I'm sure Stan is no longer with us, because it was going back 20 years ago. But Stan had a program where he was really doing an audio vlog that was disseminated by satellite on a variety of radio stations. Where he would introduce a guest, and occasionally, rather than interviewing the guest, he'd just say, you know, here is Craig Wynn. He was going to speak to you on whatever subject it appeals to him today, and you know, I'll come back to close the show 3 hours from now.
And he did.
Basically, what he did. And you know, you wind me up. I was fine with that.
He was famous for saying, "Hold that thought." Then you go to commercial, then you never see him again, you know, to the next commercial.
And you know, he was very happy when I would speak against Islam, which, you know, I was certainly prepared to do. I became really foremost expert on the subject, first to rearrange the Quran chronologically, set it into the context of Muhammad's life using the Hadith. And so I had a 1,000-page book based upon using the oldest Islamic sources to excoriate Islam. And prove that Islam is a terrorist dogma, that Muhammad led a criminal enterprise, and that Allah was not a god, and of course Muhammad was not a prophet. But you know, that isn't the thing I wanted to talk about the most, because even early on I was learning that God's name is Yahowah, and that he has nothing in common with the Christian New Testament. And that this fellow Jesus never existed. He is a complete, utter fraud. So it was, there was a lot to share in those early days as we were beginning our voyage of discovery away from religion and to the truth. And, he had a largely Christian audience. So
Big time.
it was tough. But, I noticed that in the email contacts after shows like that, I get hundreds of people that would say, what you said really resonated with me. And I've, turned to your books, and you do a nice job of proving that what you claim is true. So it's not just, vitriol against Christianity or Islam. You prove your case. Yeah. Yeah. And back in the day with when you first heard this, your first instinct was he told me that I could question his translations and validate whether or not the words actually meant what he said they meant, and determine whether or not he was correctly advocating for God or not. And when you did, you found that the Amplified translations provided the generic form of every Hebrew word.
Yes, indeed.
That.
I invested in quite a few lexicons, commentary books, all kind of stuff. I had a giant library once upon a time, although it was primary Christian stuff left over from my grandfather, who was an elder in the Presbyterian church. But I kept that. That's the only thing I asked him for. I was always looking for God. I mean, I was trying to figure out what's the deal. But I had quite a library, and so I had a good start. And then I got where, okay, I can do this for myself. I can turn on a computer. I'm not a computer guy, but I can turn on a computer and I can look up stuff, and I can go through lexicons, and I can go through interlinearies, and then I'll take those things and I'll look up. And when we were doing the shows every day, let's say Monday through Friday, I would look up every night before. Once I finished my classes, I would go look those things up, and as late as I needed to stay up and check out every word and see if it's plausible. Is there any reason why I should doubt that translation versus the other? And gosh, you were good.
You didn't find many places where you couldn't validate what I was saying. Yeah. It's one thing about laying it all on the table, all your words or cards face up, is that when you challenge people to validate what you have said and you give them the means to do so, there is a likelihood that many people are going to do so. When you're communicating openly online and not restricting access to anyone, if what you're saying isn't true, you're going to be found to be a fraud in a real hurry, aren't you?
You get exposed in a hurry, absolutely.
Yeah, get exposed in a hurry. So my deal was I was going to have the first ever totally transparent renderings of Yahweh's testimony.
Yes.
I was going to go to the oldest sources, which happen to be the Dead Sea Scrolls. They predate the Masoretic text by 12 to 1400 years. And they were actually written in Israel as opposed to having been written in Europe or Babylon or such places like that. So I went to the oldest sources, corrected the text for the changes from the Dead Sea Scrolls. Then I realized that the Masoretes, who were the ones that created what's called the Masoretic text, used a vocalization system. And I think the first time, Kirk, that I introduced it to you, I declared that it was the Sheba system, which is from the Hebrew verb shoah, and that it means to deceive. It means to perpetrate a fraud. And so I looked at this and said, did they do what I think they just did? Did they name their diacritical marking system that is synonymous with the Masoretes, these rabbis, and they were 11th century. Did they actually call themselves fraudulent?
Yes, they did.
And yes, they did. Yes, indeed, they actually did. And then you study it a little further. What you find is they went after the vowels that comprise Yahweh's name.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, 3 of the 5 vowels in Hebrew are vowels that are used in Yahweh's name, and they went after them. And so they changed their pronunciation first. Then you're saying, well, that's a really serious crime, because the third statement written in stone says that negating Yahweh's name is an unforgivable crime. There is no way to resolve that.
No.
Yeah. And the rabbis erased Yahweh's name using this system. Oops. So knowing that, and you're a historian, so I'm sure that
Sure.
when I discovered it and did my research to prove that that was the case, you went and tried to validate it, didn't you?
Well, yeah, but I went to a church for a long time prior to meeting you, and we had a Bible collection that was probably second to none. And we had we had everything. I mean, every Bible you ever thought, or every historical thing we had, every Sinaiticus and the Alexandrias.
Mm-hmm.
If there were 6 copies, we had 3 of them. We spent
Okay.
a lot of money on that. And so you could go in and look at the things and so forth and so on. But all I really had to help was the Dead Sea Scroll Bible, so I could at least look up and say what they changed and so forth. And then I could go online and find something like that. But some of the stuff that we had, I learned about before I met you, was they would take Yahweh's name and scratch it out, and you could find it scratched out, and they would write Adonai on top.
You're right.
I mean, it's easy to prove.
Yeah, it was easy to validate that they were manipulating the text. And then if you look at the Dead Sea Scrolls Bible, and it's a tragedy they use the term Bible because God has no such term. But and Bible is based upon Babel, which means to confuse. So that's as bad a way of defining what you're about, Bible, as is the Shoah system for diacritical markings.
Yes,
what you find is that there are 5 vowels amongst the 22 letters in the Hebrew language, and therefore there is no purpose whatsoever in the diacritical markings to create a pronounceable word, because all of the words were pronounceable for 5 centuries before the Masoretes invented their means to pronounce them. So we start there. So we know they were perpetrating a fraud. They called what they did a fraud, and we know that they attacked Yahweh's name, and we know that that is unforgivable. So they, from my perspective, were an obstacle to the truth. I don't think there's any other informed way that you could go about determining them as nothing more than an obstacle to the truth. Therefore, in creating these amplified translations, I would have to do more than just go to the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, the first thing I did with the Dead Sea Scrolls is I looked at any text where we had a significant swath where the Dead Sea Scrolls covered a significant portion of what's recorded in the Masoretic text. Now, the Great Isaiah Scroll is a perfect example, but so are the Psalm Scrolls, since we have so many of them. And so if you had a large swath, I was able to count, because the Dead Sea Scrolls Bible, terrible term, but what it does is it puts in italics the words which are different in the scrolls found in Qumran versus the Masoretic text. And then it has a footnote for each of those, and it tells you which scroll the variation is illuminated, and where it is, what the Masoretic has to say, and what the Septuagint has to say, and what other potential scrolls have to say. And this is a very helpful tool, because the Dead Sea Scrolls aren't something that's easily searchable. There's enormous number of fragments and partial scrolls and the like. And the penmanship is it's deteriorated enormously, particularly from the finding in 1947 to the first publication. They were treated so poorly that what was almost 50 years, they were indecipherable. So it takes some work. But one of the things that I noticed every time I did a comparison is that on average, one word in 14 was different.
Yes.
Well, it's not catastrophic.
No.
But one word in 14 is still significant, and that didn't take into account them changing words via the diacritical markings. So I knew that, if you could correct the one word in 14, you'd be a whole lot closer to the truth. And then if you could strip the words of the diacritical markings and just look at how the words stacked up in the original Hebrew text that were written the same way.
Mm-hmm.
There's some things that are hugely different. This morning, I'm dealing with the difference between lakam and lakam.
Mm-hmm.
One means war, and the other means bread.
It's bread, right?
They are written identically in the Hebrew text. The only difference is the way they have vowel pointing. And to determine which is right, you can't rely on the Masoretic text because, well, they came, 2,000 plus years
Mm-hmm.
after these text was written.
Right.
So you're going to be reliant on context. And so it was a real challenge to then determine how you could render the text once you scrubbed it of the diacritical markings, because all of the lexicons, without exception, are vowel pointed. They have the Masoretic diacritical markings. It's interesting that when they went to modern standard Hebrew now, that is the written and spoken Hebrew,
right,
come to realize that there are 5 vowels in Hebrew, and you don't have to have any vowel points. But they've never had the sense of honesty to go back and say, then the Masoretes were really lying to us all along.
Yeah,
they had a different agenda for doing this, but they wouldn't go there. It's a shame. And then the next thing we learned is that in all ancient languages, the nouns are based upon the actionable nature of verbs. So if there is a verbal root and you want to know what the word means, you need to go to the verbal root. And, in the case of lakam and lakam, the verbal root is lakam, and it means to fight, to battle, to engage in war. So you really have to, when the word's written, you need to have a definition that fits the verbal root, unless there is no way to do so in the context, and you need to render it bread. But even while you're rendering it bread, you need to have in your mind that from God's point of view, that bread, which it's symbolic of saved souls, it's hard fought. It does not come easily.
Yeah.
And now you understand why a word is derived from a certain actionable root. It's a language that if you really are willing to invest the time and think about it, and you approach it from the perspective of knowing who Yahweh is, what he's offering, what he expects in return, what he is naturally prone to do based upon what he has done in the past, you can come to understand things that people have never perceived throughout history.
This may sound a little too trite, but as when in school days, when they would say, "Okay, here's a proton and a neutron and electrons, and this is a disk, right, and it's solid, but it's really not, as everything is moving. The whole universe is moving, everything is moving. We're moving there. Why would the language not be a actionable thing?" But even further, the way I look at most of these verses now is in words is everything is leading you in a direction, to or away, if you like, to, is the positive and the negative thing. So it's the whole language is follow me. It's the shoe, turn around, come, go this direction, go from right to left in the way we look at it on the page. But it's movement. And then you say, okay, now we're going to go into 1,000 years of work. So we're going to be moving. This is not a sit down on the job. Yahweh's actionable. He likes things moving.
He likes work. Yeah, he likes things in motion. He's not into lethargy.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to lounge around all day, that is not his shtick. He likes to engage. He's very, very active and values work. Yeah, you were the first to recognize that the majority of Hebrew letters lean. The vast majority of them lean from right to left, the way that you would write Hebrew. There are some, very few. The one that comes to mind, of course, is the G, which is a backwards foot.
Yes.
That's why so many of the negative terms like Gomorrah and Goyim are written with the G. You probably don't want to be stigmatized with the G any more than you have to be, because it's typically a foot going in the wrong direction. But if what you determined is that since so many Hebrew words have a light and dark side, and you have the same, it's almost all human-oriented concepts that comprise these letters. So the original letters were drawn to convey either human aspects or human work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for example, there is an eye,
Yes.
and there is a bull and a ram that provide both energy to do things, to plow fields, but also clothing and food.
Yes.
There is a plow to
Right.
open up the soil so it's receptive. There is
Right.
a sperm that shows
Yeah.
a son or a child, and you could look at it and say, well, they didn't know what sperm meant, so well, okay, it was drawn as to look like a sperm, even though it was a root. But a fence to protect and to enclose, a mouth to convey speech, teeth to convey that which is you can bite
Yes,
into, that
talk,
would be
yeah.
nourishing as such. The rosh being a human head, ears, eyes, mouth, brain
Gain
to
the
process
five senses.
information. That there is a home that is drawn with one way in. That there are just so many of these words that convey human attributes, including the hey, which is used twice in Yahweh's name, that is the entire person standing up, reaching up, looking up to God. Yeah, and the word actually that defines the letter means pay attention. So the hand, that's there's two of them. Not just one, there's two. One with the kof, the open hand, offering you something, and the hand that is the yod that's in Yahweh's name is the upper arm coming down, the forearm reaching out with an open hand to grasp hold of the people who are reaching up to him, like you would to reach down to lead a child. It's an exceedingly graphic language with visual characteristics. And there are some letters that are vertical. The hey, for example, is vertical. The pay, which is a mouth, is stationary. It doesn't lean right or left. The I doesn't lean right or left, but the ram does. The ox.
But it's a 3/4 turn.
It's moving. It's moving from right to left. The Bayeth has the entrance to the home, not on the right, but on the left. It's so. It's a very actionable alphabet that's moving, and and then in Hebrew, different than modern Hebrew. Modern Hebrew, they decided to do away with the original concept of conjugations. So in original Hebrew, every verb is conveyed such that it is conveying a completed action, which could be, that means just one that has a finite duration, which could be in the future, present, or past. And so it's something that had been done and was completed in the past, or that will be done at a moment in time in the future. But that time that it will be accomplished is finite. And then there's the ongoing action, the habitual action, the things that play out over time. And then there are actually two versions of each of those, because then you get into the imperative, the infinitive and the participle, and the particle, and they actually describe nouns that are actionable. So you could have a title that is presented as a verb, so that the person or entity being depicted is actively engaged doing whatever that verb would describe.
That's a verbal noun. You Google it and you find out all kind of stuff on it.
Yeah. And they can be presented as ongoing or engaged in an event that takes place at some point in time, but has a limited period that you can capitalize upon it. Fascinating language from that point of view. And then we learned, as you did the glossary and began the grammar study, that there are 7 stems, and every one of those stems establish a relationship between the subject and the object of the verb. And some of them are really wild. I mean, one of the wildest is the hopeful. what kind of a language would have a hopeful stem that it's a language, it's based entirely on free will, which is why
I want you to want what I want, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, no, not that. Not in.
I want you to.
Not in the hopeful. The hopeful doesn't give a crap what you want.
Oh, okay.
It absolutely does not give two hoots for free will.
All right.
The hopeful stem says, this is the way it's going to be. I'm not taking a vote. I don't care what you think. This is the way it's going to be. It's
we're coming
absolutely imposed and forced. For example, when in Yasha'yah 31, it talks about the king returning.
Mm-hmm.
That's not taking a vote.
No.
He doesn't give a crap what anybody else wants at this point. He's coming back. Hopeful stem. It's a kun, which means he will be established whether you like it or not. You know, so the hopeful is so wild, and the hitpail is also unique. It takes a paragraph to describe its influence, which is that somebody that is under the action of the hitpail stem is not being influenced by anyone. It'd be the opposite of the hitpail. Rather than being forced to do something, nobody is influencing you whatsoever. It's like both Chanuk and Noach were described as being interesting to God because they were hitpail. They weren't influenced by any man. They were completely nonplussed. They didn't give a crap what anybody else had to say or believe or do. They weren't going to go fight man's battles. They weren't into religion. They weren't into any societal customs. They had completely checked out from the influences, the control mechanisms of man, which made them interesting to God.
Make me like that.
Now, pardon?
Say, make me like that.
Yeah, make me like that. And so when you realize that there's a treasure in these stems, and yet there isn't a single English translation or any translation that conveys it, including when the Tanakh is translated into modern Hebrew. And it is literally translated into modern Hebrew because they take a language that is very rich in these ways to shape the action and the players, and they discard it all. They also discard the moods. You know, Hebrew has a way to express first, second, and third person volition. You know, I want to, I desire, my will is. That would be volition expressed in first person, cohortative in the Hebrew. The imperative is you want to. It's your choice and desire, your will to be like that. That would be the imperative. And then the jussive is an expression of free will in third person. He or she has chosen to do this. What a marvelous language, language based on offering a relationship predicated on free will, and it's filled with moods that express free will in first, second, and third person. It was one of the most amazing things, Kirk, and again, we can talk, to some degree technically on this because you produced both a glossary and a foundational document that was used, picked up by Perry and JB and Mike and a number of others, but that spoke of the grammar. And so you have a language where when Dowd was finally sat down and said, okay, young man, time for you to fill the shoes that you've been given. You may not know it, but because prophets have come to speak to you because you weren't on speaking terms with Yahweh. Well, we've just changed that, Dowd. Now you are, and you're going to write songs. You're going to do a great job. So let's start. And we started, of course, with my favorite word, which is Asher. But in doing that, one of the things that I was able to do 3,000 years after the fact is to realize that when he was talking about the salvation of his people, the deliverance of his people, he always expressed it in speaking with Yahweh in the cohortative and in the imperative. So if the same verb with Dowd speaking and singing to Yahweh about the deliverance of humankind is written in the cohortative, expressing first person volition, his choice, and the imperative, second person volition, Yahweh's will, wouldn't it be you and I agree we both want, we have both decided upon, it's your will and mine that we work together and we save people in this way?
Yeah.
And so when you deal with that as opposed to ignore it, it leads to some rather profound conclusions. And once you start opening your mind up and going where these words lead under the auspices of the grammar that was used to convey them, then you can be the first to make the transition between not knowing, being indoctrinated, being fed a plethora of lies, to actually knowing the truth. And that's a very good place to start, but it's just the beginning, because then you can use everything we've been talking about to go from knowing to understanding. And that's the greatest place of all, the most empowering, enlightening, enriching, enabling state of mind.
Yeah, I was just reading through Kirk's grammar pages again that we've got on the resources tab of the website, and it always struck me that the original Hebrew having about 8,000 or so words, and today's, so many nouns and jargon and things like that, 40,000, 50,000, whatever. But what it took to project a thought through words took less because of context. People were smarter. There wasn't a necessity to have all these other words in there to explain the thoughts because of the context that was around them, and I thought that was just really brilliant, that without 8,000 words, you can tell the story of time and the story of the being and of this existence, and how easily that was corrupted. A simple word like Yahweh,
Yes.
And
to either context, respect and revere, or fear and crumble, terrorized in front of. Same word, written the same way, determined based upon the context. I was dealing, as I say, I've been with Yasha'yah 31, and when you just say, all right, I'm going to be completely consistent with every word here. And I'm, if there's a feminine pronoun, we're going to find the feminine noun that it is referring to, even if it's hidden, because all the verbs are written in third person masculine singular. You really go to places that your mind would have precluded you from ever seeing. It's just a marvelous journey through intellect into the very purpose and mind of God. And it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's we were talking about taking all of the existing 35 books and turning them into audiobooks. And there's a wonderful series of voices that Joe has created, and he's been able to do it without using the really expensive tools like 11 Labs. It just like Microsoft normally does, they'll come into an arena, they'll offer a workable solution for very little cost, and then once they put everybody that doesn't have something else they can fall back on out of business because they offered their solution at too little cost, everybody else goes broke, and then Microsoft jacks up their prices. That's typical monopoly, and how they put everybody out of business in word processing and spreadsheets and even in operating systems. But the fact is that we have a very good one, and so a lot of people want to jump in and say, "Oh, but we can make it better. We can train the voice to do this, that, and the other thing." I said, "No.
We have Joe."
Yeah. Here's the bottom line here. If I were to rewrite these books now, they would all be twice as long, and they would say so much more than they do, and it would make coming to know God harder rather than easier. And sometimes it's just better off to go what you have. And I've edited these books 8, 10, 12 times. And we've reached a point of time where I think editing them again would be actually counterproductive, because if I tried to tell you everything that I know in an introduction to God, you would never get out of the third chapter of Introduction to God before you were so drawn in that it's just too much to process. So sometimes it's because, what's written in them is profoundly important and so different than anything they've been exposed to. Sometimes it's just better, let's just leave it the way it is and gradually bring people, by the time they get to coming home 4, 5, and 6, then we'll blow their socks off. It's okay. But at that point, you've got a really nice foundation of who God is and what he's offering. And so when you get into the 9th volume of Yahowah, or as I say, these last volumes of Coming Home, okay, we'll give you both barrels. This is this is the way it is, and it takes you to into new dimensions of thought. It doesn't negate what was there previously. It's just far more expansive. So I think so my view is create the audiobooks the way they are, but don't fuss over making them perfect. Just get them out. They're very, very good the way they are. They're better than any other audio voice that I have heard. So get them out with the good voices, and let's get an avatar that can mouth them, because they're easier and more interesting when you have the talking heads that are mouthing the words, as is so common today. Let's get it up and get her done. And we've got the vlog for this is the latest and greatest. We have the most recent books, which will soon be published. We're hopefully over the next 24 hours add 3 to the total on the bookshelf.
Good.
Coming Home 4, 5, and 6. So
amazing.
Always a learning experience, and when you consider everything we have to work with, it's just so much richer. So as you started, Kirk, that was like 20 some odd years ago. Yeah, you're just looking up the basic words.
Absolutely. Because I had to be on the show the next morning, and I'm going up. Okay, well, let's get here. But I always looked up the verbal root to all the nouns as well. So I always had that to run. And then I got into the letters, and I said, okay, well, the letters mean this, or verified, or this awkward, whatever the case may be. So at least
there is a cheater way to find the verbal roots that's right. Probably 80% of the time. And that's Strong's. And Strong's lexicon is available free online or in books. Well, in books it's not free, but you get a book that's like this on Strong's lexicon for $20. So it's damn near free in printed form, but in electronic form, there's lots of places you can copy and paste the generic form of the word, which is why I chose the generic form, because you can look it up. You cannot look up the word if it's laden with the conjugations, with the pronouns, with conjunctions and prepositions on the side like that. You have to pull all of those away for you to be able to look up the word. Otherwise, you'd have nothing. And in doing that, we realize that Strong's, while it is keyed to the King James, therefore errant in many of its definitions, was pretty darn good at directing to roots. And then after you've done it for a while and you realize that Strong's really isn't among the best lexicons, Dictionary of Biblical Languages, for example, is far better. It's just that it's not available online. It's a real shame that the best tool has just never been published, and it's available in books. But most people want to look up things online because they're not very good at looking up things alphabetically. It takes too much time if they're in a printed book. But if you have copies of it, which I do, you can scan up and down for words scribed similarly, and find the closest verb to what it is that you're trying to translate, and so there's a lot of other ways to go about doing it. And then one of the challenges that we identified very early on is that a huge percentage of Hebrew words are compound words, including many of them that are the most important, like mikre. It's based on the verb kara, which means to invite and to welcome, to meet and to greet, to read and to recite. But it's prefaced. It has a prefix that is my, and my in Hebrew, the my pronunciation, would mean to ponder the implications of a summons or an invitation, of reading and writing.
Think about it.
And there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these. So you can go to the verbal root, but you're not going to find it in the lexicons nearby, because you've got to remove and then contemplate the influence of the interrogatory that is used as a prefix.
I mean, you have to work hard, huh?
You do. Yeah, it's
It ain't so easy.
none of it is easy. Some of it is exceedingly difficult.
And all of it's
I'm
rewarded.
trying to finish this Coming Home 4, because I have finished Coming Home 5, and I want to publish it, but I don't want to publish it before I do 4. So it'll be, like a few hours between them, as soon as ElYah gets me the cover images for them. And then I'm in the midst of Coming Home 6, but I can publish where I am in it, and then just add to it as I go along. I'm 400 pages into it. But what my challenge here is that Yasha'yah isn't the guy that you have been describing. There's 8,000 words, and the words are, I would say, is 800 words that are used commonly, and you get familiar with those words, and you don't even have to look them up anymore. You know what the most common words are. Yasha'yah's idea is, why would we want to use
let's use the whole palette.
Oh my God. Well, he goes beyond using the full palette. He invents words. There's so many words. He's the only one that includes that word.
That's why he likes you so much.
Well, yeah, because I'm the only guy that's willing to put in the time to figure out what in the world is he talking about in that word. Why did he choose that word? And well, and it's and if you just go to the lexicons or the dictionaries, you will get a simplistic thought that they think fits the context. So they defined the word based upon their religious perception of the sentence that it was in. And that just is not going to work. So by the time you chase all these things down, and then you provide an explanation so somebody can follow in your footsteps and validate your thoughts. Oh my, it does not go down easily. One of the things that was so interesting about it, it's fun just to talk about what we do and why it's so different, is that, Yahowah begins and he says, okay, I'm going to begin with a prophecy. And I'm going to talk a lot about this. I'm going to have 5 verses, long ones, all devoted to a singular prophecy. And it's the first one I'm going to give you. So it must be important, right? First and foremost prophecy, and a book that's called First and Foremost. Bereshith is first and foremost. So in a book called First and Foremost, and the first chapter, the first and foremost prophecy I'm going to give you, is one that I don't think heretofore a single person on the planet has viewed as a prophecy or has thought about.
I agree.
That's the story
Absolutely.
of the Gadol and the Katan Mayor, and how they will be serve as signs when they fulfill the Moedim, which are the Pesach, Matzah, Bakodim, Shabuw'ah, Teruah, Kippurim, and Sukkah. So it is profound that God would say that these 2 luminaries, who are enlightening men, are going to fulfill the 7 Moedim in the plural, restoring witnesses to the eternal testimony about these meeting times, is how you would translate Moedim. And that they're really going to define time. I'm telling you this in my creation account because it's foundational and fundamental. They're going to define time by their fulfillment of these Moedim. And then he weaves Mayor, which is luminaries, Mayor in the plural, luminaries, throughout the text, but particularly a Gadol, greater, and Katan, younger or lesser, permeate the text, and it continues to speak about the same 2 fellas.
Yes.
And then, because the inference here is that the greater and lesser luminaries are the sun and the moon, with the moon reflecting the sun's light, he has actually used the sun and the moon as symbols for the 2 most important characters in his story. And the 2 characters that are going to fulfill the Moed Mikra. So you're challenged to figure out who those 2 characters are. Now, he defines one of them right out. He just says, Dowd is returning. He's as brilliant as the sun. And every time he does that, by the way, he said his sidekick is the moon. And the moon and the sun are going to be together, working together through all of this throughout all time. They could be they could be father and son. They are brothers, father and son, king and herald. They're really tight. Well, in Yasha'yah 31, he doesn't like Yasha'yah just to say, all right, I'm going to play like I'm going to go like Yirmiyah would do, which is to say, I'm talking about the sun Shemek and the moon Erech. I'm talking about them, and I'm actually going to call them the Katan and Gadol when the covenant is being reaffirmed, so that there's absolutely no chance that anyone that isn't religious will get this wrong. Of course, the translations don't convey any of the meaning of those words, so everybody gets it wrong, but at least we had the chance to get it right. No, that's not Isaiah's style. He's going to come up with two exceedingly different words for sun and moon, which aren't sun and moon. One is that he's going to talk about the light of the moon by using a term that is Labana. And Labana is the feminine, because Yahweh says if anything is worth doing, it's worth presenting with a masculine noun that has a feminine ending, because we're gonna complete this. We're gonna make it extraordinary by blending both reason and emotion, passion and judgment into the term. So he spends a masculine title with a feminine ending. So it's Labana, which would be the feminine of Laban, and Laban means to make white or pure. And so at this moment, which is around the sacrifice of the Adam of Parah, the moon is whitening and purifying and illuminating in that regard. But the sun, the sun isn't shining brilliantly. Nope. The sun is mad as hell. The sun is wrathful and angry and PO'd. And so you're looking at this and say, wait a minute. Okay. I get the Adam of Parah, the sacrifice is purifying. It's illuminating. That's pretty clever to use that term, Isaiah. But why did you call the sun emotionally hostile, aggressive, enraged, literally enraged? Why did he do that? Because he does. So why? And we know Dowd is the sun. Yeah. Why is Dowd pissed off? And he is really mad. I mean, he's mad as in fact, Yahweh in the next sentence, Yahweh says, "Yeah, me too. I'm enraged." You can change it to righteous indignation if you don't like the emotion rage, but it means I'm really angry. So why would Dowd be really angry? And then now you're put in a position, you just can't render the text unless you can think it through.
Well, they've erased everything about it. I mean, that would be, I'd be pretty angry to begin with, because they've erased everything about him. They copied everything and given it to somebody else. They've stolen everything about it.
No, but that's over now.
Okay.
He's had the Katan Mayor, the lesser luminary.
Okay.
Spend his 40 years, rectifying 32 years at that point, be more, but 32 years at that point, rectifying that. He has been reestablished. His resume has been rewritten appropriately. He is, so the person being slaughtered, God calls it the great slaughter. The person being slaughtered has restored his dignity.
Yes.
So why is he so pissed off that he's being killed? The answer is really interesting. The answer is that over 3,000 years, there's only one man that stood up for him. Only one.
And that's the man.
And that one served as a father to him.
Yeah, okay.
Served as someone who laid down his life for him. Someone who followed him to hell because he couldn't abandon him.
Yeah.
And to see that man sacrificed and beaten to a pulp, well, it's an emotional experience for him. But he knows the purpose of that. He's signed off because I told him what was going to happen. So he's fully aware of the sacrifice of the Adam of Parah and why it would happen. That's not why he's pissed off. He's upset because the people who should be benefiting are screaming in favor of Rahab.
Oh, yeah.
So here is the guy who has restored his reputation, reintroduced Yahweh's name, is laying down his life to spare the mortal remnant. And the majority of Yisraelites in the world are screaming on behalf of Satan, applauding Satan for beating me up, as opposed to being appreciative of the sacrifice. That's what pisses him off.
Yeah, to be right there, to be so close. I mean, to be on, the mount at that time, to be so close. You don't have to do anything. There's no study. There's no work. There's nothing that has to be involved. It's the perfect time to get in on this. And this is the decision you're making, to go with Rahab.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. At that point, all you have to do is shut your mouth.
Yes.
Nothing is being asked of you. You're going into the garden again. You've got 1,000 years, and these fellas here and gals are going to be your teacher. They're going to care for you over this next 1,000 years to get you over the hump so that you have value and that you can potentially be part of the covenant. You don't need to do anything except don't run from this and don't besmirch it. And what do? They're typical, obnoxious, religious, and political Jews. That's a goy. Kill him. And what did Trump come out with today? He says I have a 99% popularity rating in Israel, and we've looked into it. I've looked into it, and there's nothing in Israel that says that I can't run for prime minister. I'm assured after this I'm going to go run for prime minister of Israel, and I'm going to win. And by the way, he is.
He will.
And by the way, he will. And by the way, the people applauding my death, and they're going to be like MAGAs, psychopaths for the devil, because Donald Trump is Satan. So how's that for an interesting twist? At the end, when all of this is transpiring, the guy who has offered them everything, they're rooting for his vicious mauling, and they're applauding the great betrayer, Satan.
What does that say about?
And Dowd is saying, "What in the F-bomb is wrong with you people?" God, the last thing I want to do is return to numbskulls. This is the same Israel that I knew 3,000 years ago. After all of this, you're still stuck in the gutter. I mean, this is the Israel of the Exodus under Moshe, where Moshe said, "Yeah, but just kill me. These people are obnoxious. I don't want to hang with them anymore. I'd rather be dead than have to deal with them." And now it's Dowd that's saying the same thing. Cast as the role of the sun, he's furious. And his fury is 7 times greater than fury has ever been expressed at any time in human history.
That's hot.
That's hot. He's hot.
That's
and Yah was no less. Yah was no less hot. So it's that's the beauty of paying attention to each of the words, thinking them through, never just casually rendering a translation and say, "Okay, well, that was a better effort than anybody else has done. Let's move on to the next thought." So it's that's the whole idea, is you're going to go back and rewrite all the books at the same level of scrutiny that we're able to apply now because we know who the characters are. No, in fact, if you were to do that, the kind of things you and I have just talked about, that would blow people's gaskets if you were to start with that. It's okay to finish with it. And this is finishing. That's why, Yasha'yah can invent words and speak over everybody's head because he's the closer.
Yeah.
He's not the starter. Moshe is the starter. Yasha'yah is the closer. He's talking about everything that happens in the end. And by that time, he's expecting us to be smart enough to figure it out.
Well, my whole MO since I began Yahowah was that I'm going to just sit back and let the bull plow the field, and I'll come back and glean what comes off of that. That has been my MO. So I'm not one to jump in and see if I can and figure out what Labama, and the feminine ending. I'm going to let other people, smarter and better than me, that's inside their wheelhouse, do those things, and I will read and absorb what they have to say about it and see if it does it not fit?
That is actually exactly as it's supposed to be. I can tell you that I even have to do that to myself. I was writing last night, and I gave up at about 8:00 last night. Because it just said this is too taxing, and I'm running into too many challenges with what I'm going here, and I just don't feel comfortable proceeding. So I said I'll feel better in the morning. One of the most interesting nights of my life. I've never had a night like last night.
Really?
I've shared on the program yesterday that. Well, Rich is a mess, but Rich is a mess because he did something really not very smart. He went off his medication for blood clots, and so I was kidding yesterday that he became a clot farmer, but that's not really true because clots are not vegetable; they're animal. So he's a clot rancher now, and so we had to get Richard back on the blood thinners to solve this issue. And I had said that I'm my third round now of having swollen feet, and you'd say, okay, so big deal. Well, you sit down and you're doing these translations or this show for 12 hours a day. They get worse. They do not get better, and they get pretty painful, and it's a problem. So the only answer is you take all the sodium out of your diet, and so all the flavor of the food, and then you eat a lot less, and that's not a whole lot of fun, and you have to interrupt what you're doing every 30 minutes to go take a walk. That's the solution. So I didn't want to complain last night, but I said, this is an inconvenience. It might be helpful to do something about it. So last night was like I had taken a diuretic. I didn't take anything. I hadn't had anything to drink in like 4 hours, and iced tea and water or coffee or, my fuels. I haven't had anything in hours, had no snack, no nothing. And I got up 6 times last night. And it was like I had taken the entire pharmacy of diuretic. And I wake up this morning and it's, like I'm 20 pounds lighter of fluid. And you go, well, that would be careful what you ask for. You might get it. But I come back at it this morning and say, okay, God, I know it's your style to use the feminine ending and then in a noun and then write the verb as masculine. You do that a lot. God says, I'll deploy my spirit, and he'll say, and he accomplishes this, and though spirit is feminine. Happens a lot. And so I'm trying to deal with why are all of the pronouns that are independent pronouns she? And so, God, and I'm trying to do this last verse. I mean, it's like, okay, Isaiah said, I'm going to really give it to him in both barrels. He's going to conclude the book with this one. And I've got 5 separate sentences, and not a single one of them uses words that are common. So, yeah, here. See if he you think he's so damn smart? See if you can figure this one out, pal.
Right. You Daniel, good luck with this one.
God, I got through the first 2, and I said, I'm waxing poetic about here, but I'm just not on sound ground here. And then it was dealing with a funeral pyre, and right after it went back to Rahab. So we got Rahab again, which is how I got to Isaiah 30, because it mentioned I was bragging to Dowd, trying to get his attention to say, this guy known as the adversary, the devil, he's called Rahab, and I got good news for you. I know he is your adversary, but I take him out in the end. And so I told him that in the 89th of Mizmor, and that's why I had to quote Isaiah 30, because it mentions Rahab, but it doesn't mention him once, it mentions him twice, and he's down again in the last verse. But the pronoun is she. And Rahab's a dude. Goodness gracious, what are we going to do about this? So then you look up in the previous verse, and there's no she noun anywhere, no feminine noun anywhere. And so you got to go up to the next verse and say, all right, no, the warrior and the fighting. It's all listed as under feminine nouns, even though all the verbs pursuant to the battle that he is waging are masculine. And then when you do that, you say, wow, that completely changes something that I had thought was very different than that. I had thought, we've talked about this before, and Kirk, I probably shared this with you, that when I return with ElYah as one of the final two witnesses, I've said, what we're going to have is words. And, God's going to perform some miracles around us to add some credibility. And if somebody really gets out of line, is annoying, our words will be equivalent to fire. They will vaporize somebody. It's probably not a good idea to piss us off or to annoy us, because our words will literally be fire. And that is affirmed. But I thought that, we do our best. We say what we have to say, and then come the end, after all the protection, they've tried to kill us every which way. I finally tell ElYah to go bring Rahab, who's Donald Trump in his wheelchair, bring him up on the Temple Mount along with his gaggle of psychopaths, and let's let him do his thing, which is they're going to slaughter me. And I'll just tell the Malak to stand down, and he'll do his thing, and my body, which at that point will be useless to me, we'll surrender it, and we'll fulfill the Moedim, the Moed, as it's intended. A lot of that's true, but when I get to meet the old fart in his wheelchair and look down at him, he's going to be scared shitless. You know why? God's not going to eradicate his mujahideen, his warriors, his terrorists. God's going to do what he's always done. He's going to work through someone. And guess what Yasha'yah 31 says? Is that I get to wield that old double-edged sword. It's a spear. It's a rod. I've got the scepter on loan from Dowd.
Shabbat. Mm-hmm.
And here we go. We're off to war. His mujahideen, his armies, they've been decimated. He has seen me and those that I lead, which would be other covenant members, and we take them out. It's the most amazing thing of all, because what it does is, in Rabbinic Judaism, the number one thing that they look forward to is the return of a Messiah that is a warrior that saves them. They're all parasites, so they don't do diddly squat. So they imagine a warrior savior that's going to come and save them. It's kind of funny because, the Haredi won't even fight in the IDF, and they think they're going to be led by a warrior Messiah when they won't even enlist in the IDF. But unless that is their pipe dream. And guess what? When a warrior finally arrives and eradicates their enemy on behalf of God,
Gowy.
He isn't the Messiah. He isn't even Jewish.
Right.
And they're going to be part of the carnage. How do you like your crow served cold?
Yeah. Wow.
Don't be bothered plucking out the feathers as you choke on that thing. No, it is God's just so perfect. They created a religion based upon and been touting this for 2,000 years. This unknown Messiah coming at an unknown time as a warrior to save those, save their sorry asses. And the guy that God's got in mind isn't the Messiah. He knows the Messiah really well. Yeah. But the Messiah doesn't actually return until the battle's all over. That's what they got wrong. Is Dowd returns 10 days after this is all waged. He's already paid his price. He gets to return at the homecoming. It's a celebration. It's the family reunion. It's a wedding. He's not wielding a sword when he comes back. There is no indication at all that the returning Messiah and King wields a sword again. It's over for him. And the battles have already been won. The earth has been purged of all belligerents, religious and political and militant and anti-Semitic. And, and conspiratorial. But it's the Yisra'el, the final Yisra'el, who does it. It's the sacrificial victim as the Adam of Parah on Teruah that Yahowah uses to lead the charge that eradicates all of the millions of deviants who have come to eradicate Israel. And then Yahowah says, we get to, we are, I'd never perceived myself in that role. I mean, I can understand why God would choose a bull, not a lamb, in the caricature of this individual. But we do, and Yahowah cleans up after us. What it says that he releases a flood of water behind us to wash away the mess, because it'll be a bloody mess. And then you think, how is that possible? I've always thought that they are incinerated because God chooses to incinerate them. But God doesn't like to work alone. That's not his style. He hasn't done so that we know of in at least 6,000 years. So why would he go out of character at this time? And it's just not like him. So it makes sense that he would work with somebody. But at this point, ElYah and I and the covenant family, the leaders of the covenant family that return with us, we aren't ordinary. We aren't mortals in the sense, any sense in the word. We have come from the seventh dimension of Shamayim. And well, in the seventh dimension, we aren't all powerful. You take a seven-dimensional being and you express an aspect of them in 3 dimensions. Oh my God, it's mind-boggling compared to the universe. You can use words or thoughts to eradicate entire galaxies or to bring them into existence at that point. So you'll be able to think, I want that changed, I want them gone, I want this incinerated, and it will happen. It's the reason why God has to have such tight controls over who becomes covenant.
I get it.
Because if they're not willing to use that power appropriately by listening to what God has to say, by responding in an intelligent, appropriate, moral way, you could destroy the earth without the earth having the chance to return to Eden and us to destroy this whole concept. So you have to be very disciplined, and that's what God is looking for, is to somebody who will use that power in an appropriate way and not go beyond it. But you talk about, this mortal remnant and going forward, they have just witnessed now us obliterate billions of people to purge the earth so that it can return to Eden. And when God terraforms the earth back to the conditions of Eden, he isn't going to do that alone either. So they've watched all of this take place through his chosen implements. And then, they will have watched the most gruesome of slaughters ever. And then the soul of that person come back with the king. At that point, chances are, if you're part of that mortal remnant, you just are not going to give that guy any lip, are you?
Right.
You might give him ear, but you're not going to give him lip.
I'm careful what I say today.
No, that's not the purpose of it. The purpose of it is Israel has given God nothing but lip.
No, I understand.
For 3,500 years, and they've never given him ear.
And it's about time to cut that out.
And so God's going to say, listen, fellas, I'm enjoying working with you, and we're going to continue this next 1,000 years under this same working arrangement. And when he says that Dowd's going to come back as ElYah, as the influence of Almighty God, he is going to continue to work through and on behalf of that remnant exactly the same way. And it's our job to prepare the best of them to transition from mortal to covenant, so that there are more of them that God says, yeah, I can work with that. I can trust that individual. I will empower them as covenant, because once he empowers them, we have big time responsibility. and our authority really is not going to be questioned. You know, they're going to know that you step out of line, you do something that's religious, you do something that's political, you gang up together as opposed to accepting instruction individually, and you're in serious trouble.
I believe so.
Yeah, after 6,000 years of talking to people and no one listening,
Yeah.
he's going to solve that problem. He's not going to put us through what he has been through the last 6,000 years, in other words.
Yeah.
What a beautiful thought that is. Yeah.
Oh, my. But I think the most beautiful of all is how God is saying, you know, I'm so disgusted at Judaism for creating a false Messiah to replace my son, and to pretend that a Messiah unrelated to my son is going to be a warrior and going to save them. I've got the perfect antidote for that. They hate Goy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make the man that saves them from their enemies a Goy. And he's not the Messiah, but he knows him. I just think it's delicious.
That's rich. Yeah. No. All due respect to Rich, yes.
It's a good
respect to Ruth. Yeah,
it's a good separation as well, because not only are Yehudim in general not going to accept it, but you know the Haredi will, the most ultra religious of them will absolutely cannot. You know, the ones in the middle that have no religious ideology whatsoever could accept it. You know, that they could say, hey, yeah, these pieces fit, this works. But the Haredi, the ones, you know, that is that karat, that is that the dividing line that they just can't pass, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, when you're dealing with the ultra Orthodox and the Haredi, which are really one and the same, it's just that they're called ultra Orthodox in New York City and in America when they put on their black morning suits and their shamils, and they're called Haredi in Israel. But it's the same group, and the difference is that in America, they aren't the dominant influence of Judaism. It's Reform and Standard Orthodox. In the United States and in Israel, there's only one form of accepted Judaism, and that's the Haredi. In the Haredi ultra Orthodox form of Judaism, there is no independent thought. There is no free will. Everyone is under the control and influence of the rabbi. So the average Haredi man or woman won't have a response. They will look at the rabbi, and the rabbi will tell them, this is what you do, and they will do what they're told.
Wow.
So that is how that's going to play out, and nothing is going to change that right to the very end.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's do a couple of items in the news so we can honor the theme of the program, which is called the vlog on the blog. Yep, for that, Captain Kirk.
I'll give it a shot.
Okay. Oh, we're moving pieces all around the keyboard here. Captain Kirk, you noticed that his backdrop is the old tree in the sea.
I noticed it right off.
Yeah, the old tree in the sea. I'm sure that wasn't the name of it when you painted it, but since I am the old tree and I'm coming from the sea, I rather like it. And all of those rocks that's there and being a crag, you know, it seemed to fit that. So it watches over me as I sleep at night. I moved it into the master, and it's on the center of a wall between the two doors that go out to the sky office now. So it has a very prominent.
I'm honored.
Yeah, well, no, I'm honored. It's a magnificent painting, and it was just so fitting for what the roles that have been asked to play. I kind of look at that old gnarly tree and say, yeah, I can relate to that. And sitting there in the rocky crags above the sea, it speaks to me. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
No.
All right, so this first picture is a video. And I'm not very good at videos. I must tell you, here we're producing, thousands of them, but to go all the way through a video is tough for me. I will, by the way, watch ours. It's a lot of times in the evening, I will I'll play the whole video and say, yeah, that's really interesting. I'm glad we said it that way, and I like the way that it's produced. This happens to be a video that begins slowly. That's a uranium mine in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
And it walks through the automated nature of uranium mining and how Iran has access to its own uranium. And then it goes through the various facilities that Iran has, because you essentially get a cup of uranium per ton of soil. I'm not sure that's the right ratio, but it's close. And you can't send people into the mine. It has to be a totally automated process to get the uranium ore out of that. And by the time you've done it, it's about a cup of uranium per a ton of ore. And the uranium is only 0.7% 235. Most of it's 238, which is way too stable to be used for anything. And so they go from that, and nice explanation of it. Then they go into the initial process of separating the uranium from the ore and where Iran has those factories and how they move superficial factories underground so that they can't be bombed. Then they go from that to the centrifuges and how they designed the centrifuges originally, how the Pakistanis came and gave them the technology originally, how the Pakistani actually stole the technology, worked in a lab in the Netherlands and had secret clearance, and stole the technology to make the centrifuges, and then took them initially to Pakistan, but was just a typical thug and sold whatever he had to the highest bidder thereafter. And then you watch the Iranians have all sorts of secret transport systems and shell companies that transported all of the necessary components into Iran for assembly into centrifuges and what they called them, and the centrifuge that was part of the centrifuges. And it's a fascinating report in what he does, and the players that are involved in that whole process, people making a buck over the potential death of millions. Then the Israelis took their facilities and with the Mossad started blowing them up. And, that didn't work really well for them. It made a pretty significant investment in this material. So the Iranians did something that has made Iran impervious to attack. That is why Trump did not prevail with Midnight Hammer, why the 12-day war failed, why this current war failed, and there's no way out of it. Iran came up with a three-pronged approach to everything, and this video covers part of that, which is that they don't allow anyone to know the whole story. Everybody carries bits that they can do their part.
Makes sense.
The second thing is they don't allow any facility to be built above ground unless it's designed as a decoy to be bombed. They have reverse engineered our bunker busters because some of them didn't explode and they were duds. They know exactly how to deflect them. They know how to escape the damage that they will do. They know how deep you need to be. And you don't even have to be all that deep if you build concrete ceilings over your main production facilities that are at angles, because it will take that penetrator and it will push it to one side or the other. And so they're very adept at creating this kind of thing. So the second part of it was bore holes in the ground, go underground, put everything of importance to underground. The third thing was, because of the nature of their foe, Israel and the United States, and the fact that they knew they would attack from the air, never have a single reliance on any facility. And in the case of these centrifuges, to take the uranium and spin it from a low visual purity of 235, starting at less than 1% up to 3.5 to 5% for a nuclear reactor, up to 20%, that's 90% of the energy required for a bomb. It's when you get it to 20%. It needs to be 87 to make a bomb, but the work to get it to 20% is essentially 90% of the effort is already done. When you get it to 60%, you can spin up what you need for a bomb in the matter of a day. So it's at that point, it's child's play. You've already invested everything that needs to be done and the energy to spin it up. So they when the embargoes went on them, the sanctions went on them, they began to invent their own centrifuges. And so the internal guts and the impellers of these centrifuges now are carbon fiber, and they are Iranian designed. And then what they did is they said, if we'll never allow America to be able to bomb one or two sites and think they've taken us out. Of places where there's centrifuges, there's some 20 that we know of. 20, all buried. And they're dispersed throughout the country. So everything's buried, everything is dispersed, everything is replicated, and no one person has the keys to all of it. And by the time you go through and see what all they have done, you come away with the realization that apart from divine interaction at the end of the 7 years, there is a 0% possibility that you could eliminate Iran's nuclear capability, and nobody has a clue as to how much they have. Back in 2024, it was the Atomic Energy Commission that said they thought they had like 450 to 500 kilograms, but they've been producing uranium 235 ever since that time, and it could be 3 times that, could be 5 times that. And we also know that that the casings that the Russians make to transport it all left the sites that America bombed back in Midnight Hammer. Where it's all dispersed now, no one knows, but it ain't there. Unless they made more of it there, but then the majority of it's elsewhere. And since we're always within days of having the physical purity to have a bomb, they've always had the delivery mechanism. The likelihood that they have nuclear warheads now is overwhelming because we've given them every incentive to do so. Making the 12-day war and now the second invasion foolhardy. It didn't accomplish anything, and it was counterproductive. But it's really an interesting video. I would encourage seeing it. Now I've done the narration of the whole video. I don't know if you need to see it, but wouldn't hurt.
Saw a little taste of it before we went live. So.
What I found the most interesting was Iran having its own mining capability of uranium. That's not something that ever crossed my mind, that they're going to say how much uranium Iran has the fissile purity and the 2 tons, and they have this amount that they can make bombs with or whatever. But there's no way to know because you don't know how much is in the ground.
That's what this picture is. Yes. It opens with the mine, and the mine is all automated. The humans are way, way out of harm's way because uranium isn't in its natural state isn't going to kill you if your skin is exposed to it. But if you bring it into your lungs, it'll have a long-term negative effect. So they keep the miners a long way away, and it's the whole process is animated. It's really a fascinating tour de force of what's involved. And once you know what's involved, you realize that the simplistic statements, we obliterated it by the dumpster, are just a fool's folly. All they have done is lie. And when Netanyahu says, what do you do with the uranium? Well, you go in there and you get it. Yeah, right. Good luck with Captain Uranium there, pal. You can no more do that in the Man on the Moon. Now, you realize that the politicians are lying to you, and what that means going forward. It's a seriously important insight. Thank you for watching it there, though, Kevin. Yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier. I saw on our site, somebody late last night, early this morning, posted that Donald Trump had said, and as soon as I hear something like this, I said, nah, come on. I mean, yes, that's what I would expect him to say, but no, he really didn't go there, did he? No, come on. But he did. So they had said that Donald Trump at Andrews Air Force Base, he was going to give a commencement speech at the Coast Guard Academy. And on his way at Andrews Air Force Base outside of Washington, that there was a group of reporters, and he just off the cuff decided to say, you know, I have a 99% approval in Israel, and I've checked into it. I can run for prime minister of Israel. And then he said, I think that's what I'm going to do. After this is done, I'm going to go to Israel. I'm going to run for prime minister of Israel because I have a 99% approval rating. And it's assured that that I would win. So I'm going to be the next prime minister of Israel.
You know, at this point, I'd be thinking, you know, this guy named Yada is called about every shot.
Yes.
There is.
Yeah, I have. I mean, you go right back to
this and read his books.
Yeah, and that's what I see. You know, I guess some people might say, you know, people get frustrated with you when they say, you know, I told you so. But not only did I predict, 20 months ago,
yes,
that Donald Trump was the great betrayer, that he was Satan incarnate, that he is the man who is going to be the Neville Chamberlain that's going to sacrifice Israel, and that he is literally Satan as a man. He is the person that the Christians have convoluted into the Antichrist. That is who he is. And to make that claim of a sitting U.S. president that was elected by Christians, who is nearing 80 years old and is in deplorable health and has a mind that is gone to the dumpster, and is a complete confabulator who is that any sane and moral person would look at as far worse than scum.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to make that claim about him. I mean, that takes some courage, because there is nothing that you would say is logical about that, because every religious presentation of the Antichrist has it, you know, some handsome but gay 30-year-old from Romania or someplace that is going to beguile the world, and he's going to be anti-Christian. And I realized a long time ago that you want to know the Antichrist, read Paul's letters. He is as close to a person. He even admitted that he was possessed by Satan. He's as close to that character as anybody in history. Muhammad, very similar. Muhammad also admitted that he was demon possessed, just like Paul did. And so that's the model. And so if you want to look and find somebody, both of them admitted they were sexually perverted. Donald Trump was sexually perverted. Both were egomaniacal. Donald Trump is egomaniacal. Both made grotesque claims on behalf of God, claiming to be the most important person in the world and the savior of mankind. Donald Trump says the same stuff. Both were diabolical in what they contradicted God constantly. Donald Trump is that man, and to say so, that took some courage, because not only did I say so, then I went through the prophets and I said, on the 29th of January in 2030. He's going to do what he just said yesterday. He's going to go into Israel. And he's going to go into Israel as the leader of Israel. And by the Ides of March, the 15th of March of that same year, he's going to declare that he's God.
Wow. Amazing.
Amazing, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, just in our spare time, we report on tomorrow's newspaper today. That's a pretty good one right there.
I'm canceling my subscription.
Yeah, we talk about prophecy because it is the tool that Yahowah uses, and therefore we wield to validate that what we're telling you is true. So for somebody to make the claims that I did when I made them, and them to be that improbable, and you're witnessing him confess to it, you know, if you're a Christian, if you're a Muslim, if you are a MAGA, you ought to be listening. Everybody is lying to you except us.
Yeah, on a kind of different note, one of the questions I had for today was that I'm just wondering, Shabuw'ah, time of Jacob's troubles coming up over the weekend, right? I mean,
Friday
and
tomorrow.
Friday,
Tomorrow,
yeah,
today's Thursday, right?
Today's Thursday.
Yeah, so we're talking about it'll be sunset in Yisra'el. I'm on the East Coast. I'm in Atlantic time, which is now East Coast time this time of year, which is 12:30 here for it to be sunset, which is 7:30 this time of year in Jerusalem. It doesn't have to happen on sunset, but it's the Shabuw'ah is the beginning of the time of Jacob's troubles, of Israel's troubles. It begins 22nd May of 2026, which is 24 hours from now. Yes,
right. I'm wondering if this triggering event, because Shabuw'ah is going to happen. Shabuw'ah is Shabuw'ah, but as far as us getting something that is definitive, life altering, that hey, this is the time of Jacob's troubles, do you think it's going to be a big event, or do you think it will be something that we have to look back on in hindsight and say this is where things started? You know, like the Archduke of Ferdinand was shot for World War I, right? And it was an okay deal, but it took a long time for historians to go back and say all the pieces to come into place for World War I to get as big as it was started at this event. You know,
what happened yesterday. This is
right.
This is the essence of it. Israel accepting Satan as their leader. Satan moving to Jerusalem to try to control Israel and the world and destroy it. What more would you want than what you got yesterday?
Would I want? Yeah. I just in my mind, my expectation is that there is some event that is just your jaw drops and you're like, yeah, this is it. You know, like
no, it's never jaw dropping. It's never jaw dropping.
We know that
it's never been jaw dropping. It will never be jaw dropping. You look at the percent, the Dowd's fulfillment of Passover. Nobody even noticed. We hung the king of Yisra'el, God's Bakor, his firstborn son, was nailed to a torture stake by the Romans. And not only didn't people pay attention, they came up with 2 fables and 2 false messiahs within 100 years to replace him.
Right.
So you think that was a big event? Oh boy, we can look at that and say that's how it's going to be fulfilled. When he went in to fulfill Matzah, the single most important day in human history, where Dowd's soul takes our guilt and he takes it into hell for a heavenly cause.
We can't even perceive it.
Stands out? No, because even in the religious myths, their god was taking a nap. Nope. And Bakurim, anybody paying attention? Nope. So when Shabuw'ah happens, God's even on record in saying that the harvest fulfillment of Shabuw'ah is such that nobody knows what happens. So is nobody enough for you, sir? Kevin?
Okay. Yes.
What part of nobody is missing here?
Right. Okay.
You got yesterday something that was so far beyond anything I thought we would get.
Oh, right.
Of Trump saying, I'm going to follow this up by being the prime minister of Israel. I have a 99% approval there. It's not. It's about 78. But that's pretty close for Trump. That's as close as he's been on anything. So that's pretty good for him. So he has done the research, and he knows he's done the research. He knows, in fact, that he can run as prime minister of Israel. He knows it's the only country in the world that he's still popular. And so he's going to do so. And the whole story of Rahab that I've been talking about here on this program, and we've done other programs on, is what Yahowah says is this egomaniacal pervert is exceedingly popular as a public persona. And that when it comes down to honoring his promises, because he will promise to protect Israel. When it comes to honoring his promises, God says he's a no-show. So yesterday, you got the announcement that that's where I'm going. He's the key player. That's Satan. Israel's going to establish Satan as their prime minister. Hoorah. Yeah, there you go, baby. Hoorah.
I don't know why in my mind I just expected there to be a 9/11 event, a bombing of Pearl Harbor event, something that, but yeah, I'm with you.
No.
I get it. I get it.
Okay. Well, did the bombing of Pearl Harbor occur on a Moed Mikre?
Oh, no.
No, did it? No, did it? Did
no.
Pearl Harbor occur on God's time schedule?
No, has nothing to do with, yes.
No, nothing. God's time schedule revolves around his Moedim.
Mm-hmm.
His Moedim have to do with him. The world pays no attention to him.
Yeah.
Now, the Twistians that are looking for their rapture, they're looking for Teruah as Rosh Hashanah, and they don't even know that there's no rapture, but they don't know that the harvest is Shabuw'ah.
Mm-hmm.
No, they're not going to be expecting anything. God says in Yasha'yah, it's 57, that when the covenant family are withdrawn in this harvest, the mature grain, that nobody's going to know or care where they've gone. The only people that are going to care that they're gone is those who are expected to be part of it, which is the cult, that the mommy goddess cult. And he says, that beyond them, no one's even going to be considering this. And those for the mommy goddess cult, they're led by a woman who is demonically possessed, and I'm going to send them all to hell, is what he says. So that they're going to do them any good.
Mm-hmm.
So no, it's just not. That's not Yahweh's style. The only thing we know that is with the things that we know is that God says it's going to be the worst time in the history of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean that all 7 years and 4 months are the worst time in the history of Israel, but collectively, if every moment was the worst time in the history of Israel, you wouldn't get through 7 years and 4 months. So it ratchets up. We know that God describes Alaska flood, which was 10:7, on much greater terms as the final battle that is fought for Israel and to annihilate Jews. And he tells us that it is much more numerous, such that you're in the range of saying close to 1,000-fold magnitude. He tells us the country they're going to come from, and mostly they're going to come from Iran. He tells us how they're going to behave. And he tells us that 2 out of every 3 Jews are going to die over this 7 years. That's a lot of information to process. He tells us that right after this fellow, as Rahab, shows up on the 29th of January and declares that he is God and establishes his own rules for his religion on the Ides of March 15th of 2030, he tells us that 2 witnesses will arrive on Passover that same year, which is April 18th, I believe, in 2030. And then he tells us that things are really desperate, and that these 2 fellows are going to have a scroll that goes over them to communicate their message, and that he's going to reestablish the tent of the restoring witness on the Temple Mount, and that ultimately it's going to conclude with the greatest day in the history of the universe, the great day of Yahowah, which is Teruah, in 2033. And that day, just to speak of the things that are taking place on that day, I could do 10 3-hour shows and probably still not cover it all. And so that day is going to be, you want fireworks? There's your day for fireworks. That is, everything imaginable is happening that day. The earth is being transformed in the conditions of Eden. There's great cascades of water off every mountain on earth, along with this torrent that comes from the subterranean waters beneath the Temple Mount. There's the sacrifice of the Adam of Parah. There's the obliteration of all of the religious and political assailants and malcreants against Israel. There is the fire and the ash and the smoke that serves as the purification from Numbers 19 and the Adam of Parah on behalf of the remnant of Yisra'el, as discussed in Numbers 5. It's it's the man from Edom doing his thing. It's getting the blood for the anointing of the mercy seat when Dowd returns. It's setting up Dowd's return so that the world is purged of all of this and we're ready to go back into the garden. It's the 4 chariots with 3 of them moving around the world. Now we know why, by the way, that red chariot was red. I mean, it carries the Adamah Parah, which is the bloody red man of the earth. So, that was enough, but it isn't enough because guess why it's red? I'm out with the sword. I'm obliterating.
Oh, that's the
people.
Yeah.
So as the other chariots, one is the black chariot. It picks up all of the religious and ultra-political Jews to haul them off to Sheol. And the white chariot picks up all the Yisraelites, the naming convention here of Israel, brings them that are not overly stained by religion and politics, the zeros, if you will, but they're not negatives. They're not negatives, they're just zeros. And it brings them into Israel to be purged by the sacrifice of the Adamah Parah. And then it has the dapple chariot, which bringing the Goya men, who are also net zeros. They're not antagonistic to God or his people. They're not. They don't know enough to be dangerous, but at least they can be purged. They're not going to run away from the purging. They're not going to denounce what's happening. And they're brought in. Well, at that same time, in the red chariot, we're taking care of business. So, it's a lot going on that day. Even the fulfillment of the harvest is unseen, unnoticed. And so if the harvest is unnoticed, why would we think anything else is noticeable? It just starts that 7-year, 4-month countdown. And we know that in the first period of that, sometime I would think within the first 16 months, there will be a Fakistinian state that will be traded for false promises of peace. So I think that'll happen. And obviously, Israel is going to continue what is a precipitous decline. And I don't know how, if you're not noticing, but Israel has gone from, okay, so there's a nation of Jews, they're surrounded by Muslims, and, they do some stuff that we don't like very much. Israel has gone in the last 3 years, 2 years to 3 years, to the point where they're the most disliked nation on earth with an approval rating that's sub 5% around the world. They're the most booed and hated nation on earth. They have had to deflect the Alaska Flood 1.0 that's the model for this final war that is being fought against Israel that'll be so brutal. So we witnessed that war. We've seen Israel lash out at Lebanon and Syria, and now twice at Iran. And seeing the consequence of Iranian missiles and drones at Israel. We've seen Israel destroy its reputation, not only with the world, but with the United States. Israel's popularity in the United States has plummeted, and there doesn't seem to be anything that Israel can do to stop that decline. We've seen the rise of the Torahless one, the person that Christians would call the Antichrist here, and we've seen his announcements that this is what he's going to do, that he's going to do exactly what we said he was going to do. We've seen how vulnerable Israel is. We've seen just really everything that you would expect as a precursor up to this. We've seen Israel destroy itself by being a house of divided against itself. 20 to 25% of the super liberal Marxists in Tel Aviv want nothing to do with the government or the country. And the 20 to 25% that are ultra-Orthodox and Haredi, they're parasites. And then you have the right wing, the Gevirs and the Smotriches and the like, and that are becoming terrorists against the terrorists. I don't know what you could see that it would be worse than what we're witnessing in Israel. And there's nobody in Israel that is capable of leading the country. They're suicidal. I mean, with their response to 10/7, of going in to destroy Gaza was suicidal. I predicted they would do it. They did it. It was deadly. They destroyed their reputation with the world, and they grossly overreacted. That was not the way to respond to that event. And then they said that their war is against Hamas, and Hamas still stands. They have no clue what to do with them. You can't build back Gaza. Gaza can never be independent. Israel is now destined to feed the Muslims who are devoted to killing them, while the world condemns Israel, calling it genocidal for feeding their most vicious enemy. And yet you don't have 1 in 1,000 Israelis that understand the problem isn't Arabs, it isn't Hamas, it isn't Iran, it isn't Hezbollah, it's Islam. And they don't know what the Quran or the Hadith say, or what Muhammad did, or why 10/7 was nothing but a reenactment of Kabar 1,400 years ago. It is set up to be exactly as the prophets foretold. No, the answer is nothing has to be done. I thought that what happened yesterday was so extraordinary that it could not get more dramatic than that. It is. But the reason Dowd is mad as hell right to the very end, and it was mad as hell, is they're looking forward to obliterating the vast majority of people. This is the final solution to the human problem. Israel doesn't get it. If it were not for this time of trouble, there wouldn't be any mortal remnant.
Yeah.
They will continue to believe their rabbis who are lying to them and fleecing them, and their politicians who are clueless and who are committing suicide with their nation. They'll continue to believe in the IDF that did nothing on 10/7 and has made things worse ever since then. They're just going to continue to follow them. They're going to rally around that 6-pointed star that they wore to the gas chambers during the Holocaust. They're not going to change.
Yeah, you mentioned this being the worst time for Jews in Israel over the next 7 years. I mean, and this is on top of Jews being wrapped in the Torah and set on fire under Hadrian. This is this is within line of Jews having their stomachs cut open so that as people were looking for gold that they were trying to carry out of Jerusalem. Israel has suffered some horrible things.
Rings put through their noses as they were chained to the person behind them and stripped naked to walk from Israel into Syria as slaves.
Yes. Yeah.
Having 185,000 of the best warriors on the planet, not 4,000 Muslims and tenny rompers. I'm talking about 185,000 of the best warriors on the planet surrounding Jerusalem after they had already destroyed the northern kingdom. This is worse than Epiphanes sacrificing pigs in the temple.
Yeah.
This is worse than the War of Independence and the 6 Days War and the Yom Kippur War and multiple intifadas and Oscar flood and Kabar, Yehud, and what took place in Yathrib with the genocide against Jews. You're seeing everything that God said was going to happen, and it's just going to continue to play out, and it gets more shrill as we move to the end. And at the end, if we don't respond the way we do, it'll be the end of the planet. Now, there is in Debatim statements that indicate that we're going to have a nuclear war along this period too. And Yahowah actually says that he is so angry over what's happening that he too is going to resort to fire and brimstone. It's going to get really nasty out there.
Right.
And we also just have all manner of threats too. 3 or 4 days ago, they found an asteroid, big fella, 300-400 feet across, that if it hit the Earth, would be take at least half the Earth out. I mean, we're people within 5,000 miles of it would be incinerated. And they located the existence of this asteroid like a week before it's going to buzz by the Earth, and it's going to buzz by 1/4 of the distance to the moon.
Ooh.
When Apophis MN 2004 does its flyby in 2029, it's going to be inside of our satellite rings. The orbit of the satellites, it'll be inside of the satellite orbit.
Wow.
So it's we really got a mess on our hands. The sun is acting up. Volcanoes are increasing. We're getting more storms. And we have made a contribution to Earth's climate, and it's the planet's not happy with us. And clearly, you can see that with AI being geared into, when we did a program yesterday, we talked about the CENTCOM commander saying we don't target civilians. Well, he's partially right, because people don't target anymore in the U.S. military. It's AI. It's AI that's deciding who to kill. It'll be AI who decides who to live. It's AI that is doing the thinking for people who don't want to think anymore. Talk about put us in a terrible position. It's AI that controls social media, flow of information today, what you can say, what you can't say. And we're in a really bad situation. You can't use any social media outlet if you want to tell the truth. They won't allow it.
Right.
All right there. So the answer is no. There's not going to be a grand event.
No fireworks to key. Okay.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about Massey. Your guy doesn't do fireworks, by the way. It's just not his style.
Right.
He just doesn't do fireworks.
Well, not that he was necessarily doing anything.
And you're going to make that choice based upon what you hear and how you respond to it, or you're not. But if you're into fireworks, it's going to be or not. Yeah. Yes, during that last 3.5 years, he does some miraculous things with his two guys. But at that point, there's really no choice. Remember, the back's up against the wall. There's only 3.5 years left on the survival of the planet. I like this quote by Massey. I don't like him. He's a raging anti-Semite. So he's, in my view, he's a scumbag. But he's opposed to Trump, so he's not all bad. He's just, mostly bad. But the fact that he opposes Trump, I find appealing. But he said, today is the 6-month anniversary of the Epstein Transparency Act in Congress. The reason Trump went against him is because he was the strongest voice in favor of releasing the Epstein files. And Trump, of course, is scared to death about the Epstein files. So when he said the right thing to do, I happen to be a Republican, but still the right thing to do is to release the Epstein files. Let's find out what they say and let's deal with it. And Trump, of course, had a conniption fit over him, and Marjorie Greene was the other person. And he vitriol because, well, he is a pedophile, he's a rapist, and pedophiles and rapists don't like the fact that they don't mind being pedophiles and rapists. They just don't want anybody to know about it.
Don't want anybody to know about it.
Yeah, they just don't want to expose it. So that's how Massey got the attack by Trump. So he's announced now that he has lost. Trump controls the Republican Party. Shame on you. And he says, this is the 6-month anniversary of the Epstein Act, and we've already taken out 24 CEOs, an ambassador, a prince, a prime minister, and a minister of culture. And that was in the first 6 months. He says, I got 7 months left here in Congress, and I got nothing to lose.
Yeah. I don't know how much
He's a raging
power
anti-Semite, so we can't rally around him.
Yeah,
But that's a pretty interesting statement, don't you think?
yeah.
Yeah, I've always said you never pick a fight with someone that has nothing to lose. There's no upside to that, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much he's going to be able to do in Congress on his own. I mean, there's just obviously not the will to push anything through. But it's good talk. Absolutely, it's good rhetoric.
Yeah, it is. There's a problem with the Epstein files, and that is that there are even more Democrats and U.S. institutions and U.S. allies and exceedingly liberal chieftains of industry that are caught up in it than there are Republicans. It's just that the President of the United States was the best friend, and he was the most helpful individual to Epstein and his perversity. And so you never have had great support of Democrats to release it. You look at Bill Clinton. I mean, he's just all over it. And so they don't want it released because of the Democrats that are skewered and the government institutions that are skewered as a result of it. And the Republicans don't want it because now what it does to Donald Trump. So, I think that the likelihood of the rest of it being released, and Trump right now has the lawyer that has represented him against disclosure of information is the head of the Justice Department. Good luck with that.
Somewhat unrelated, him and his sons just got lifetime free passes on audits from the IRS.
They did. Trump uses lawsuits as a form of a stick. And what he does, this is how he's come to control the media. This is how CBS became Fox. This is how both Facebook and X have gone from being liberal to now condemning any person who speaks out against Trump. And what he does is to say, we can do this the hard way or the easy way. He's done this to Bezos. He's done this to Zuckerberg. He's done this to Musk. And he's done it to Ellison, who owns CBS. And so the approach is, and TikTok now too. So the approach is really simple. If you play along, you contribute to all of my little schemes, and you're part of my group of CEOs, I'll cut you in on every bribed deal, every government inside thing. We'll have all manner of programs that you can get rich on, like SpaceX. SpaceX doesn't exist without U.S. grants. Tesla doesn't exist without U.S. subsidies. So I'll cut you in. And if you go against me, you continue to be liberal, you promote those things that are opposed to me, you report the news that I don't want you to report, then I will send the government lawyers against you. And I don't care how rich you are, they will find something that convicts you and you'll go to jail and they'll bankrupt your company. And that is what he has done. And so he sued the IRS. Here's the President of the United States. He sued the IRS for releasing his tax forms. And to settle that suit, so that, and by the way, now the head of the IRS is appointed by Trump. And so he gave Trump what he wanted, which is guarantee of no audits, guarantee of no arrests, guarantee of no harassment, that the IRS is completely off limits to Donald Trump. That's what he wanted. That's what he got.
Right. It was crazy. I remember him talking about, well, how am I going to pay myself through the IRS when I win this lawsuit? They owe me $18 million or whatever, for my lawsuit, and so it's like me paying myself,
Yes.
What?
I know, just exceedingly warped individual. And the fact that 38% of Christian Americans still support him just shows you how disgusting the religion of Christianity is, how stupid you have to be a Christian, and the fact that they have no intelligence, no morality, and are completely ignorant and irrational. And that 38% isn't changing. You've got 38% of American adults that are completely useless the danger to themselves and to the world. And that's not saying anything in favor of the Marxists on the other side. The Democratic Party has gone so convoluting, socialist, Marxist, progressive, that they've got nothing to offer. And so you take the two, and about just shy of 40% on either side, and all you have of any chance in America is 20% that, you know, might not be so ridiculous religious or so ridiculously political that you can actually reach them. But then, you know, you have this last two generations that have stopped thinking. And so you really just don't have much to go with. I mean, it's truth is slim pickings. God's going to be exceedingly unpopular for until they're all gone, and at that point, he'll be popular because it's only people that have chosen him who will be left.
Right.
I like the plan.
Yeah, the hopeful stem is the last
Almost got my chart.
Is how you come back around on a program. Nice.
You try, man. I've tried to follow Yahowah's example. We'll do this one, and this is the new order for the Gulf. I just love foreign affairs. It's the people who brought you the most impressive government conspiracies of how the dark state is working and manipulating everything behind the scenes. And it's probably true that in America, this mirror of democracy, which is a horrible thing. Democracy is something that has never survived and has no chance of surviving, and is wholly inappropriate as a form of government. That democracy is just the game. It's the window dressing. That everything behind the curtain is how the country is actually run, and if you are elected and you step outside that their little box, you'll be JFK'd. And it's certain that will happen to you, which gives them pretty good control. The new order for the Gulf. They're saying, oh, well, there's Mikey, and he's talking to the emir of the UAE. Oh, we'll go take care of ourselves now. We learned we can't rely on those Americans. We wanted them to beat up Iran, but we publicly said don't beat up Iran, because if you're rooting for the great Satan and they're killing Muslims, and you've got a private estate with a flag, and you're the dictator, the odds of you staying alive in your country if you're siding with the great Satan against the Muslims is really not very good. So we couldn't publicly say that we're in favor of going and bombing Iran. And then when the Americans went and bombed Iran, they bailed out on us. Can you believe that? They abandoned their bases. And then the Iranians destroyed those bases. And so here we are, stark act naked to the world. We can't sell our black ooze. We can't sell our fertilizer. We can't import food. We got nothing. And the Strait of Hormuz is closed. We got nothing left. And the Americans can't even come back to those bases because they're destroyed, and we couldn't trust them if they did. So what in the hell are we going to do? So it got so bad. The emir of the United Arab Emirates, he brought in Jews and
Really?
the Iron Dome. I mean, imagine being that desperate. His own
Mikey's
people will kill him over that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I know where we are.
And then MBS, the great psychopath, he brings in the Pakistanis. He brings Pakistani troops in, to defend Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia's got 35 million people, and not a single one of them knows how to fly one of their F-35. Well, they don't have F-35s yet, but they will. F-15s or any of their hundreds of billions of dollars worth of United States weaponry. He's got nobody to operate it. There's no one who knows how to operate it, and they can't even fill up their supercar with gas in those countries. If you're one of the elite that's on the dole, you get the supercar, you get your Bugatti delivered to you. When it runs out of gas, you leave it on the side of the road.
Yes.
These are countries where 100% of what's built is built by slaves from other countries.
Yes.
You know, they lure people in with ads. They promise to pay them a certain amount of money and provide housing for them. They get them there. They steal their passports. They offer them a fraction of what they said they were going to offer. And they put them in places where hundreds of men have to sleep on the floor and on unair-conditioned places and are now slaves. And that's how it's built. So do you think one of those slaves is going to go and man a machine gun for them? No, they've got nothing. They're completely exposed and bare-ass naked to the Iranians, which if the Americans attack them again, will destroy them. They'll take out their refineries, will take out their electric grids, and are going to take out their desalinization plants. And there is nothing they can do because you bring in the Pakistanis. The Pakistanis bankrupt their own country multiple times. So you're going to bail out Pakistan so that they can come and bankrupt you?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to pay the Jews, bring in the IDF, your avowed enemy, and the IDF is going to, how's that going to play with your country? I mean, no, they got nothing, literally nothing. Islam, is an interesting thing that when Muhammad created Islam as a criminal enterprise in the 7th century, he came up with this idea scheme that if you whatever you steal, he gets 20%, you get to keep 80%. And then he created religion where the 8th surah of the Quran says stealing is lawful and good, and killing is good, and rape is good, slavery is good, plunder is good. So pedophilia is fine. You can have as many women to abuse as you want. Women are property. So he came up with this scheme to give despicable men whatever they would crave to go fight for him. And then the Jews sold him Talmud reading so that he could have a religious textbook that sounded credible because of the stolen Talmud readings. And so, here he is, and he's created this religion. And in Arabia, it works. And then the Romans and the Persians had beaten each other up to the point where they had nothing left. And there was, after the war of compulsion in Arabia, where the first Muslims forced Islam on every Arabian, they went off and dealt with the Persians, and there wasn't any fight left in them. And then they began to spread across what was the old Roman Empire, and it was just they moved into a vacuum, and they were exceedingly vicious, and they killed a third of the Earth's population, 200 million people.
Yeah.
They enslaved and raped and plundered another 200 million people, and 200 million people converted to Islam. Apartheid. It's a horrible, horrible thing that happened. And they continue to be belligerents all the way through the 15th century. 1495 is about the time that they finally were opposed successfully, and they were pushed out of Europe, and they were constrained in the 55 countries that they had perpetrated savage colonization upon. And because they were a religion, they weren't condemned for their colonization like the British were, but it was far more vicious and counterproductive and cruel. But since that time, it's 1495 is what, 5 centuries ago. The Muslims really haven't won much of a fight. They haven't been able to defend themselves or to push their agenda in 500 years. So this is where they find themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And every time they try to push Israel out of the world, they lose badly. But now something has changed. One is that the whole world has turned against Israel because of Israel doing everything we said they were going to do in the Gaza war, which was madness when there was a much better approach. So Israel turned the world against them, and Israel is completely isolated. It's a vassal of Donald J. Trump, who is Satan incarnate. And now Israel has picked the second fight with Iran, and it can't win that fight. And it doesn't know what to do. And Netanyahu wants to double down. Zero chance of regime change, zero chance of resolving the atomic energy problem. Made it worse. and zero chance that the Arab world is ever going back to what it was, and going to be far more vulnerable. And world economies have been ravaged, and anti-Semitism's at an all-time high. So, and here they go. They're about ready to go back and do it all over again.
Yeah, Israel's needs to start focusing more on Israel and step out of the things are not going well for them in Lebanon whatsoever. The move against Hezbollah was a bad idea in the way that they're doing it.
The second war against Iran was a very, very, very bad idea, and they can't win. Israel has destroyed itself. Mm-hmm. It's put itself in a position where it's completely vulnerable and hated. So really sad. This is why I'm just so disgusted, would be the term, with Christian Republicans. I mean, if it wasn't for Christian Republicans, Donald Trump wouldn't exist. And here he is with images of himself as the Pope, here himself as images of Jesus. Here he is, the great flag bearer. Here he is carrying the AK-47 when he's actually Private Bone Spur. Here he is with his salute of the Fourth Reich.
Mm-hmm.
He's a terrible confabulator. He's a rapist, a pedophile, egomaniacal jerk, and they genuflect around him. You can't have any sense of concern for the United States. When the United States is destroyed economically, militarily, turns to total anarchy, knowing that 40% of Americans are Marxists and completely oblivious to the fact that collectivized man is evil man,
mm-hmm.
and that the 40% are psychopaths to this perverted monster. What is there to have pride in? What is there to rally around? What is there to care about?
Yahowah's name. That's
you guys still live in the continental United States.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. It's going to get really nasty in America too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Who knows what's going to happen with this upcoming the midterms because the Marxists are not popular. Trump is exceedingly unpopular outside of his base. He has no sway with independents who carry most elections. But the independents are not going to naturally cling to Marxists.
Oh, they just won't show up.
Yeah. So what in the world is going to happen? And America's put itself in a real mess. And it deserves its fate. And he said, okay, one more. Well, yeah, this is a good one to end.
This is a good one, yeah.
Yeah, this is Fidel Castro's brother. I love the fact he's got 4 stars on his lapel and 4 stars on his hat. So he is General 4-star there.
He's the real deal, isn't he?
Real deal, man. Yeah, so he is
man to be dealt with.
He's not the leader of Cuba, but most people think because of his being the brother of Fidel, that he is the power behind the current throne. So the Donald decided he's going to indict him. He's going to kidnap him. That'd be the next person he brings over to the United States. He's going to kidnap him. President kidnapper. And so, I figured, well, finally Trump found somebody as old, as decrepit, and as weak as he is. This would be a fun fight. I'd love to see these two guys put on the boxing gloves and go at it, wouldn't it?
When you go out at night and you get all the 57 Chevys around, and you
Oh yeah, it's absolutely. Trump failed miserably with regime change in Iran. He's failed miserably with regime change in Ukraine. He's failed miserably with regime change in Venezuela. This idea that we're in control of Venezuela and we're getting all of their they're really thick ooze. No, we're not. Venezuela has just gone to the point where it can't
close for business.
Yeah, it's closed for business. So, now what? And destroyed our reputation with the entire world in the process. But you're going to go after this old guy? I mean, come on. Unless you're a MAGA and you're just really grossly immoral and stupid, why would you rally around kidnapping and beating up this old fart?
Well, and what's the upside for Cuba anyway? What, like Kirk was saying, so what do we get out of Cuba if we do regime change there? What do we gain from Cuba? Well, more 57 Chevys, more classic 57 Chevys that are in mint condition. I mean, is that what the United States gets from Cuba? I don't understand
why it's like when Trump said he wanted to make Canada the 51st state, and you're saying, oh, have you thought that one through, pal? They are exceedingly liberal in Canada, and so what you would do is you would increase the popularity of the Democratic Party by 50% if you were to do that. The same thing would be true with Greenland's only 57,000 people there, so it's not much to talk about. But he wanted to make Venezuela the 51st state, and now Cuba. They're impoverished.
Yes.
And so if they made them states, you would be responsible for government welfare and Medicare. You'd bring in a fraction of 1% of what you had to pay out. You would take a country that is already bankrupt and $40 trillion in debt, and you would take it to $100 trillion in debt if you made Cuba the 51st state, or Venezuela, or Canada, or Greenland, or any place else. You're not thinking it through. What's the point? You talk about the Venezuela being the largest oil reserves in the world. That's just not true. The vast majority of Venezuela's oil, you can't get out of the ground. It's too heavy. You just can't. If you got it out of the ground, there's very little you can do with it. And if you have any interruption, it gets stuck in the pipes and you can't get it out. It doesn't have much value. What has value is the largest oil reserves in the world that is easily extractable. And that's when we gave Iraq to Iran. You put the two of them together and they dwarfed the rest of the world. And we screwed that up, though. But yeah, what's the purpose other than chaos? I mean, he's Captain Chaos. I want to control the world. Captain Chaos says, everyone's going to bow to the U.S. military, but you couldn't beat the Houthis. Yeah, the other day, he was talking about how Obama withdrew from Afghanistan in shame. Not even smart enough to know it was Biden.
Right.
And had Biden not left, he should have left. He just didn't have the courage to pull it off. I didn't even know what president it was. He's constantly harassing the president that nominated the Federal Reserve chair, not knowing it was
it was him. It was his nomination.
This guy at least knows that the sunglasses go on the nose and on the ears, and he's got a hat that doesn't look stupid. So he's already ahead of Trump.
Right.
It's a pretty sad world, my friends. So maybe we'll end it at that. I'm just happy to be down here in the Rainbow Studio. It's nice to be able to do down here again. We'll work and see if we can come up with a slightly different setup so the computer's not quite as large here. We'll get you off of the Breathe Right strip there, Captain Kirk. But the future, have you found a partner and a topic yet for the vlog show that you're going to host?
Well, I still got to get a hold of Noah. I was dealing with the taxes all week. They're trying. I spent some money that the people wouldn't give me their TIN number, so I'm being audited because they think I'm a crook because I spent money and got to take a deduction for a service that. Anyways, but I talked to my accountant last night, and
Oh, so you're being audited. That's fun. Yeah, I'd heard that.
It's not audited. You get a questionnaire and then they audit you. If you don't, or they just fine you and then you have to fight them. So it's like
the good thing is, I would recommend doing it. If you move here where we are, you know how many successful audits the IRS has had in the U.S. Virgin Islands?
They can't find anything down there.
Zero, because they can't, of course, get a jury that will vote in favor of the IRS here. Sunny place for shady people, I guess. I tell my accountant the story, and I said, but I like my freedom.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to tell you one word how to fill out that.
Oh no, I pay the same.
I said, you tell me what I owe, and you fill it out, and I am going to have zero input in this because I don't want any vulnerability. But I can tell you that it's one of the perks of living here is that you'll never hear from the IRS. In fact, you can't even electronically file here.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take your paper file and hand it to somebody, and you have to have duplicates of it so they can stamp it and say they received it. Otherwise, they'll deny even receiving it.
It's just a final word, and thank you for having me on the show. But the thing that as I try to condense all this entire show, if you're outside looking in, and you're going, there's no hope here. I mean, if it's not Yahowah, then you're done. Please listen. I mean, we came to that conclusion 20 years ago, and I never stopped. And all the people who've come along, that such a good family. It's wonderful that they get it. But we were doing this for them.
Isn't it amazing that the majority of those who are part of this covenant family have been together, educated, searching, learning, open to new information, investigating for anywhere from 10 to 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Between 10 and 20 years. That's a long time in a completely open system where you're encouraging everybody to do their own investigation.
Yeah.
And
great fun.
It's an extraordinary situation. And, every day we come up with a new insight that is profoundly important, that no one has ever perceived before. And we're just building on top of this at a prodigious rate. And so here you are, you have every opportunity in the world, even for eternal life, for a relationship with God, for inheriting the universe. And we're offering all of that to just those who will listen and respond intelligently. We won't take anything from you. We don't ask anything from you. But that's not good enough, I guess, because it's not religious, not political.
Good.
I know, it's just amazing. That's why God says in the end, he's going to resolve his human problem. He came to realize very early on that one person had the potential of being good or bad. But the moment there's many of us, we are all bad all the time. And that's what he said, that as soon as there became many, they were all bad all of the time. And it has been true for the last 6,000 years. So
yes, sir.
I think that there are independent islands of sanity, and that's what we will have to continue to be. And I thought it was so interesting that when Yahowah reestablishes the earth in the conditions of Eden, one of the reasons that he's doing the whole planet is so there can be some distance between us. He knows that we just do not do well under collectivism. That when we gang together as empires or religions or institutions of any kind, we go amok, and we go amok in a hurry. So he's going to give us the best chance we have by giving us some room between us. All right. Thank you, my good friend. I look forward to seeing you, excuse me, tomorrow evening on our broadcast. That's assuming we don't go anywhere between now and then, but
don't say that.
I'm not thinking we will. I guess if those who think we are going someplace tomorrow, all right, we'll have the evening show, the Shabbat show in Shamma'im. That won't be so bad. But I can tell you, this is my deal, is that I've always said that, if Yahowah were to take us early, and if it takes us next year, my first request is going to be, would you please send us back?
Yeah,
That's
we
going to be
gotta
tough
touch
to
it.
solve
Let
because,
me do
you're
something.
going to be in the seventh dimension. Things are going to be really, really, really wonderful, and they're really crappy here by comparison. And the first request, you can send us back. We had a lot to do. I think we can continue to make a difference. Give us, put us back in. Let us
Yeah.
do this.
Come on,
I will
Coach.
say that if he were to take us out tomorrow, I'd be pounding on his door just immediately and say, God, it's just not going to work. We have way too much going on. We just started the independent blogs. These are going to be great. You're going to love them. We got 3 books. We're all trying to publish at the same time here. We finally really got a foundation of information. We are really got some traction here now. Please, the website is marvelous.
Yes.
Put us back in.
Yes.
Yeah, and of course we'll say that young man,
We're running this show.
Yeah. Who's running the show? Who works for whom here? I say, yeah, but I know what you want. Let's go get her done. We're not done yet. You want us to get her done. You want us to complete the job. We're not finished.
And Kirk is slow. We have to wait.
Yeah, come on. Sit down. Take a break. Put your feet up. We'll get her done.
We'll take it from here.
Yeah. Trust me, by the time I put you back, you're going to be screaming to come back up here.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to be back for 15 minutes and you're going to be screaming to come back up here because nothing but a bunch of numbskulls down there. So,
there is that.
There is that, isn't there? All right. Well, thank you very much. I've violated my own rule of more than 30 minutes in the chair without walking around. But, I had nobody Rich has been walking around. Wookie's been walking around, but nobody wants to sit up in the chair. So Wookie just jumped up and sat in Rich's lap the moment I said that, saying, see, I'll do it.
That's one of my fondest memories is downstairs. We're in that bedroom there, and every morning, I know you get up really, really early, and today I did, but I usually don't. And then I get up early enough. But a Wookiee would come down every day and he'd jump up on the couch, get up on the bed and say, what are y'all doing? What are y'all doing? Let's go.
Yeah. Checking out. Yeah, because we're getting up at 5:30 and Wookiee he's in full investigation mode by the time the sun comes up. So yeah, what are you doing? Want somebody to pet? I'm into heavy petting. You're in bed. Right. I know that you guys do heavy petting in bed. I'm here. I'm available. The Wookiee. He is the most interesting character of the group by a long shot. All right, my friend. Thank you. Always great to see you, Kevin. We'll look forward to doing this again tomorrow. Did we have any affirmation of a guest tomorrow, or what are we?
I haven't lined up a guest for tomorrow yet. I was going to kind of take it easy and see, but if you want a guest, I'm sure that there's plenty of people that.
I am fine. Okay. I am fine just being the two of us, and we can do a good long shot of news and any other topic like we can talk about what Shabuw'ah really represents, what it
that'd be a good one.
What you brought up today, because I am certain that if you are looking for fireworks, there are the majority of the others are looking for fireworks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
let's talk about
absolutely.
You represent the voice of the many, so we can go into that and we're going to know soon enough because we're gonna be there in 24 hours.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you both.
Yeah, so take care.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch y'all on our next podcast.